A senior Labour MP, Bruce George, has criticised the families of 3 young soldiers who died at Deepcut Barracks after they had questioned the terms of an inquiry by a group of MPs. Mr George is the chairman of the Commons Defence Committee, and he responded angrily to suggestions that the MP's investigation into the way the armed services treat recruits was one-sided. Our Parliamentary correspondent Rachel Hooper reports.
The Defence Committee had invited the parents of 3 of the young soldiers who died at Deepcut in unexplained circumstances to give evidence to its inquiry into the duty of care of the armed forces. It came the day after the government had announced a review of allegations of serious abuse at the Surrey base, contained in a police report. But yesterday the MPs were focusing on the deaths that occurred between 1995 and 2002. The parents told of their experiences, how, for example, they were treated by the army after their children's deaths. Des James, who lost his 18-year-old daughter Cheryl, said her personal belongings were sent back using a courier.
Who rings you up and says he's broken down, I'm just going to sleep over in a lay-by and I'll drop your box off tomorrow. And when he comes, you sign for your daughter's life on the doorstep. And when you open the box, you've got absolutely no idea what's missing because no one's talking to you.
The MPs had made it clear right at the start of their inquiry that while it had been prompted by the deaths at Deepcut, it would not be a substitute for the police or judicial process. The chairman, Labour's Bruce George, said yesterday that the committee's task was to see whether the armed forces were learning the lessons of the past. But Des James said that unless and until there was a thorough, transparent, judicial review of what had happened at Deepcut, he couldn't be sure that anything had changed.
Surely there is enough history here now to show that the MOD have over and over and over again told the public and anyone who listened, we've changed, we've put our house in order, don't worry. I, for one, will never accept that.
And Mr James pleaded with the committee not to take at face value what the army said.
I do appreciate, I really do, that this inquiry was never intended to be about Deepcut. Yeah. But we do have 3 out of 4 parents who lost their children at Deepcut. And I think that the one thing that we are looking for is accountability, and the one thing that necessitates accountability is a balanced debate. Can we assume with any confidence that both the commanding officers who were at the camp, commanding the camps when our children died, will come before this committee?
But Bruce George said no, we can't do that.
What we can't do is either the role of the Surrey Police or of the Ministry of Defence. We really can't do that. And in a sense, I'm restraining at the limits of our rules of engagement in going back to where we are. But I do not. The reason we're doing it, I do not want you to think that we are just appointed by the Ministry of Defence to reflect their interests. That is not the case.
Mr James tried again.
At the risk of labouring the point, I'm not convinced that taking evidence, even regarding the duty of care issues, simply from the parents, and not taking evidence regarding duty of care issues from the commanding officers, seems a very one-sided view.
Bruce George said the committee had been visiting training establishments and talking to commanding officers. But Jim Collinson, father of another soldier who died at Deepcut, 17-year-old James Collinson, was deeply sceptical.
You are now being invited to go along to certain barracks at a certain time. Now, like any other person or any other place, they know the days that you are arriving and what times you are arriving. So therefore, that day is just a set-up, if you like.
A Labour member of the committee, Frank Roy, rejected that.
Let me tell you, there is no one in this earth who will set me up to speak to anyone in the armed forces that they want me to speak to. There is no one in this committee who, when we go to visit any of the bases, are overshadowed by someone.
But when Des James continued to question why the committee wasn't going to talk to the other side, as he put it, the chairman had had enough.
Can I end this, please? I mean, if it was any other group talking to us and criticising us for our methodology, I would throw them out. But because it is you, I've sat back and listened to your criticism about our methodology.
Bruce George said this inquiry was consuming a lot of the committee's time.
We're taking half of our time or more in wondering and agonising and being distressed about what happened to your kids. Now, I would have hoped that that will reassure you that we are taking the future of young soldiers, sailors and airmen into our highest priority.
He urged the parents to wait for the committee's report, which he expected to be ready early next year. But what they want, as they repeatedly told the MPs, is a full public inquiry.